Hello, Extratime.
You point to the league not to get a hug because it damages your reputation. It makes people, when they read it, just laugh at you.
But simple look, they're playing in the League One and they're playing in the Europa League and they're credit and the game in this country. Maybe we should get Stephen Kenny then to manage the Irish team.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Extratime Football Podcast. Your host Luke Jordan, Season 12, Episode 24 this week. On this week's episode, similar to last week, there was no League of Ireland Voice Notes podcast on Saturday. That was due to the scattered nature of the fixtures at the moment because of the European games. So we're going to hear a couple of voice note reports from our reporters who were at the games this weekend. And a little bit later on then, we're going to hear from Tom O'Connor, and Barry Murphy has joined us this week on the show. So first, let's start with some of the Friday night action then. Bohemians took on Dundalk in a big game, the lower end of the League of Ireland Premier Division table. A 1-1 draw. Ross Tierney opened the scoring for Bohemians, but Darragh Horgan's quick reply meant Dundalk came out of Dalymount Park with a point. Our reporter Pat O'Connor was at the game and he dropped us this voice note.
Good evening, this is Patrick O'Connor from Extratime.com here at Dalymount Park for a quick summary report on tonight's SSC Electricity League Premier Division match between Bohemians and Dundalk. The game has just finished, final score 1-1, share the points. In terms of the game overall, good game, interesting game, over 4,000 supporters here, which is the norm at Dalymount Park. Bohemians in the first half started as they finished against Rovers, very, very dominant against a kind of a slow starting Dundalk side. Both had most of the possession, played some nice flowing football, played it through the middle where Alex Grieve, who started at centre forward, was very, very effective, and they played an awful lot of ball down the wings, and particularly the right wing where Dale Rooney was excellent tonight. So they had all the possession. It was only a matter of time before they made the breakthrough, and they did make that breakthrough in the 18th minute. Jordan Flores, who was really the conductor of the orchestra for Bohemians in terms of what happens around midfield, got the ball, played it out to the wing to Rooney. He went back past Dundalk's new left back, Daniel Pike, rounded Pike and fired in across with his weaker right foot. And Ross Tierney, who again had a superb game, standing more or less in the penalty spot, and he fired home a volley to give Bohemians a well-deserved 1-0 lead. Dundalk were playing second fiddle at that stage, but surprise, surprise, they actually got an equaliser not that long after in the 27th minute. Jamie Gullen, who was playing a lone forward front because Dundalk just played with one centre forward, 5 across the middle. He took a pass from Robbie Benson, rounded Lee Kavanagh, got to the in-line, had a shot which was saved by Churaska, but the experienced Darragh Horgan followed up and he struck it into the net to make it 1-1 against the run of play, but nevertheless probably deserved from Dundalk's point of view. Both had a couple of penalty claims in the first half which were waved away by Owen O'Shea, and there was a long discussion at half-time between the ref and Alan Reynolds in relation to those penalty claims, but they weren't given, and as I say, it went in 1-1 at the break. Second half was probably a bit more even. Dundalk came more into the game. I have to say they were very, very dogged with some really good defensive displays by Aid Dervin in the middle of the field and John Mountney at right back, among others. Dundalk were quite good on the counter-attack. Horgan in particular, Darragh Horgan was quite effective on the right wing, and they really improved in the last 15 or 20 minutes when John Daly brought on some fresh legs, in particular Jad Hadiki, Robbie Mahan and Owen Kinney added an awful lot of zip to the Dundalk attack, and they actually caused a lot of problems to Bohemians in the last 10 or 15 minutes of the game. In contrast, Alan Reynolds made a number of substitutions for Bohemians, but they really didn't have an impact. And you'd have to say that Dundalk probably finished the stronger of the two sides. All of those three players, Hadiki, Mahan and Kinney, had reasonably good efforts on goal. They were either saved by Churaska or they were over the bar and wide. But a strong finish by Dundalk. Both did have another penalty claim, maybe about 10 or so minutes to go. Tierney was certainly pushed over in the box. I thought it was a penalty. A lot of the Bohs players remonstrated with the referee, but he wasn't for changing his mind and he waved it away. So Bohs did dominate the extra time, and there was all of 9 minutes of it. They had a couple of corners, a couple of half chances, but I must say that Goddard, the Dundalk keeper was excellent tonight. He brought up some really good saves and played very, very competently behind their back four. So that plague of inconsistency that has bedeviled Bohemians all season seems to still afflict them. After that great win over Shamrock Rovers last week, they would have expected to pick up all 3 points against second from the bottom Dundalk, but that's not the way it worked out. So as I said, it finished Bohemians 1, Dundalk 1. This is Patrick O'Connor, Extratime.com at Dalymount Park.
The other Premier Division game was Sligo Rovers faced Galway United in the Connaught derby. Sligo this time came out as winners 2-0 on the night. Our reporter Donal Ryan was there and he spoke with Declan Boyle after the game and he dropped us this voice note.
Full time here in the showgrounds from the third Connaught derby of the year, and we've finally seen some goals. Sligo Rovers 2, Galway United 0. Declan Boyle, talk me through that one.
Yeah, listen, it was a big match, obviously. Big crowd, good atmosphere here tonight. Both teams were at it from the word go, and it was really good atmosphere, good tempo to the game. Galway were very, very, very good. We're disappointed they haven't got something out of the game, to be fair. But it was decided by two big moments of magic by Sligo Rovers. Wilson O'Wero's volley, and just before the first half finished off, and it was a wonderful, wonderful strike to go on 1-0 for Sligo Rovers. Galway came out in the second half and were excellent, pushed men forward, threw a lot of balls into the box, free kicks, corner kicks. But tonight, Sligo Rovers defended and were so resilient and they did a marvellous job, and ended up at the very, very end. Luke Pearce scoring a wonderful individual goal in the last couple of minutes of the game to steal the 3 points, and there's a big 3 points Sligo Rovers that pushes them into third in the table and keeps that current form going so well. And there's massive results in the last 5 or 6 weeks, and now can they push into Europe, and that's the goal now, obviously, going forward.
Yeah, I don't think too many people would have had Sligo Rovers pushing for the European places at the start of the season, Declan.
No, I think we were tipped to probably be in the relegation zone and potentially being relegated. And John Russell and his management team should take massive confidence from that, because they've been really, really good. They've done the job. There's people were calling for John's head at the start of the season and the first quarter of the season, but he's turned it around and the players have responded so positively. We had injuries at the start of the season. We didn't have our best players, and at the moment we're playing really, really well. And the new signings have been excellent as well, and they've all contributed. Wilson O'Wero, he's on current form, great confidence, and tonight was all about confidence because he volleyed that, and it was just a marvellous goal.
Just on Galway as well, Declan, I mean, the scoreline probably doesn't reflect the balance of the game, really. Galway dominated a lot of the ball, especially in the second half, but they just couldn't make the possession count. No,
they played very well tonight, Galway. I mean, I was really impressed with them. The quality of players that they have. They brought on 5 subs, and the quality of players they're bringing off from the bench, that just shows you how much they've improved, obviously. Their effort was really, really good. They worked really hard. Tonight it just didn't happen in front of goals to them, and that'll be probably a disappointing factor. Set plays weren't good tonight, but you must give credit to Sligo Rovers, who defended very, very well. And but Galway will be back. I'm really impressed of how well they played and the quality of players they have, and they will cause problems. But tonight Sligo Rovers had a wee bit of luck. Defensively they were very, very good. The back four were excellent. They were resilient. They defended well, and on the counter attack they caused real problems. And the first half as well, obviously Chapman had a header that came off the crossbar. Simon Power had a header. There's one wide as well. So they're 2 big chances. The best moments of the game probably fell to Sligo Rovers, and they ended up scoring 2 wonderful goals to take 3 points and push them level on points to Waterford in third place.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's the tale of the tape from the third Connaught derby of the season. Full time here in the showgrounds, and it's finished Sligo Rovers 2, Galway United 0. Sligo Rovers making a little bit of a late push for those European places and opening up a gap on Galway United and Shamrock Rovers beneath them, going joint third on points with Waterford.
Our last voice note of the weekend comes from Tallaght Stadium. Our reporter Macdara Ferris was at the Shamrock Rovers and Cork City game in the Women's Premier Division. A 1-1 draw on the night. And Macdara called up with Collie O'Neill, and guess what? He dropped us this voice note.
You probably feel it's 3 points that maybe got away, but to get the equaliser at the end is something you can take away from the match.
Yeah, you can't miss that amount of chances and look to win football games. And then I think there was only 3 things we spoke about at half-time. Is Cork's only way they were going to score was going to feed off a mistake from us. Tempo and urgency in the final third need to be quicker and better. And then our overall play was just a little bit too slow, and we wanted to speed things up. And that's how it just translated into the second half. We have no one else to blame but ourselves. We created enough chances to win 3 games, but it is what it is.
Ella Kelly was particularly good. I think she gave you a really good attacking option on the left. Is she just still 15?
She is. She's still just 15. She's a great prospect for the future.
Yeah.
She's been doing really well in training over the last number of weeks, and we were looking at an opportunity to get her in, and at least she can push for a starting spot now week in, week out. She was very good.
You rested your under-19 internationals at the start. You introduced two of them at half-time, and it was Joy Ralph who got the equaliser late on. How have you seen those three players kind of come back after that camp?
Yeah, no, they were good because they played on Wednesday, but you have to be mindful of it. If they started again today, that's 5 full games in 2 weeks, and you're in the red zone there, and we've other big games coming up over the next couple of weeks, so we've got to protect them. They were fully fresh, they wanted to play, but it was us trying to protect them.
And you got a chance to get Savannah McCarthy on the pitch, her first appearance this season, which is brilliant.
She's absolutely walked her arse off the last number of weeks. It's one of those things, people only ever see the players on the pitch, they don't see the work that they do off it. She's done so much rehab, so much gym work, so much pure hard graft to try and do that just to get onto a playing pitch again, and it's nice to see her back on the pitch.
You handed the debut to Emily Corbett this evening. I hadn't seen much of her before. Obviously, for her first 45 minutes, you were through her at half time. How's she kind of come into the group since she's joined?
She's come in, she's settled very, very well. It's a case of she's been out of football for a number of weeks, so we know she's not fully fit yet. So it's a case of trying to get her minutes and build her up, and it's not just get her to try and settle into the Shamrock Rovers way and the tempo and the style that we want to do. It's trying to get her to get back believing in herself and getting her back to that kind of player that was player of the year only 2 years ago.
And do you think she can get back to that form where she was
absolutely.
Unstoppable? Yeah.
Oh no, absolutely. That's she has top potential. She's still only 20. She's a great addition to the side, and it's one where I think once she gets the fitness up and the sharpness up, she'll add another little dimension to us.
You mentioned there finally the games to come. There's obviously the All-Ireland Cup, great win, semi-final win against Shelbourne during the week at Tucker Park. You won the coin toss, so the final will be here in Tallaght Stadium, and you're sure you'd be hoping for a really big crowd, but it's actually a chance to win first piece of silverware for the women's side. I think since 2002, when Rovers had side in the Dublin Women's Soccer League. So
yeah, no, it's our first chance as us as a group to try and have something to show for all the hard work that was done. It's not going to be easy because Galway are a really, really good side, but at least we have a chance, we have an opportunity, and it's when this whole thing was put together, it was to try and build towards these moments, these occasions, and we're looking forward to it.
And you have a home draw in the FAI Cup as well to come.
Yeah, but Wexford are doing really, really well lately. Even Galway, I suppose, has had to go to penalties to get by Wexford, and Wexford are on a good run too. So that's not an easy game either. As you find in this league, the standard goes up and up week in, week out, and every team can do each other on the day, and it's another tough game for us.
And that was Macdara Ferris there with Collie O'Neill. Joining me now is Tom O'Connor and Barry Murphy. Lads, where are we?
Yeah, not too bad.
I suppose before we talk about the football, Barry, the one place to start, is that you on the Olympics coverage, or is that your imposter, or what's going on?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it myself. I was watching TV and he just popped up, and even with my family, they turned around and looked at me. I was like, what the hell's going on here? Unbelievable.
So just to clarify, that wasn't you on the Olympics coverage?
No, it wasn't me. I was busy preparing for the game tonight.
Okay. Well, we are recording Tuesday morning, so by the time we probably get this podcast, the Rovers game may be done. But might chat about it briefly. Yeah, look, 2-0 down after the first leg, and the truth, Barry, it probably could have been 3 or 4. Rovers did have a couple of chances, but going into the game tonight, what do you see their chance of going through? Very slim?
Yeah, I think the big chances were last week. I think Neil Ferrugia's chance in the first half, he's got to score that and put Rovers 1 up in it. Puts a totally different complexion on the game. Then they've got to come out and start chasing Rovers and sit back a little bit like they did against Vikinger in the first round of games, and it would have suited Rovers a bit more that way. But when you look at the task tonight, like no League of Ireland teams ever come from 2-0 down from the first leg to progress. And you add to that, they've only lost 2 games at home all season last year, Sparta. So they're scoring goals for fun, and they've a squad worth 70 million quid. And you look at that's a huge task for Shamrock Rovers to go and do something tonight.
Yeah, and I think you kind of touched it in there with the chance in the first half. I think in European games, I think the chances and opportunities are a premium. Ferrugia has to score, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, he's like the chances when the keeper first gave it to him to take another touch there. Probably a lack of game time as well. The sharpness wasn't there. He just got to hit that with his left foot and even direct it towards the goal. And you never know, goal gaping, you know. And then Honahan's chance as well in the last 5 minutes as well. He two clear cut chances. He probably does all he can with the first one, heads it down. The keeper makes an incredible save, but the second one kind of just hits him. But that's the luck in these games. You've got to take those two chances when you have them, and you know you're going over with something to really play for over there. Not that the tie is over, you get a goal, and you never know what can happen. But this is just a quality outfit who aren't going to give you those chances again.
Yeah, and ironically, he was probably the one player you wanted the ball to fall to, because in the game itself, people watching and people listening now will be listening in. He was probably the best Irish player in the park in terms of best Rovers player in the park. He was excellent in terms of getting by a player. He was probably the most dangerous player on the night.
Yeah, he was brilliant. He looked like we were just commenting on the game at the time and how imposing the other side were. Big, strong lads, but Neil Ferrugia fitted in so well with them. His speed and his finesse on the ball as well. He was pirouetting out of challenges and getting up the pitch, and he was playing on a different role. Kind of Stephen had him playing inside right, kind of on the right of that box in the midfield, and he was just penetrating them every time and getting on the pitch. But then he kind of run out of steam, or I wouldn't find that final pass. And then it kind of just showed. It started from that missed chance at the start that he kind of never really got that final touch onto the ball. A couple of shots in the second half as well. It went over the bar, but never really got to that final third where you want him. His work is kind of done in the first third in the middle, and never really got further up the pitch to cause damage.
Yeah, and looking at the other two European results, then obviously disappointing Rochelle's didn't train at Zurich.
Yeah, I think that the writing was on the wall there. As soon as that throw was made, it's really tough to go over there and get a result. And I think you can see it after 28 seconds, the game plan kind of goes out the window. The way Chelsea's played, kind of trying to keep things tight and score on the counter attack or attack and the counter attack, and maybe bring it back to top with something to play for. But like their story's been remarkable in itself, and to go and have a taste of it this season, with a view on next year, maybe Champions League football, if not Europa League football. So listen, they've got a taste of it now, and they've got another tie to look forward to and a full house in Talca.
Yeah, I suppose on the positive side then, from Irish perspective, Pat's always been 3-1 against Videz. To be honest, a week ago when on this podcast, you said Tom Macdara, I was kind of bashing Pats after the performance with Derry. I did not see that performance coming in Richmond Park last Thursday.
No, I didn't either. The only slight bit of hope is that the Dulls were starting the season, that they only played a game, but they were everything they weren't on Sunday against Derry. They bite about them, tempo, just speed on the wings as well. Mulroney was excellent, and Zach Elvedetti on the other side. And listen, you need that bit of quality as well in these European games, and to open the game up the way Jake Mulroney's goal was incredible. You know, that you need that bit of quality to try and break down a team. And the Dulls started to come off. They got frustrated as well. They're lucky to keep a couple of lads on the pitch as well. There was a couple of dodgy decisions as well where he could have easily sent a few off, but they've got a great chance now going into the second leg.
Yeah. Mulroney's free kick, what do we think?
It's incredible. Like, from a goalkeeping point of view, just nothing he could do about it. He would have watched videos all week about how to deal with his free kicks, how he to put in the wall, to put that draft kind of clear at the bottom, as they say, at the bottom of the wall, because he knows it's not going to go over. But it's the way he hits it. He kind of puts a top spin on it with that technique, and it has enough height to get over the wall, but immediately drops a couple of feet straight away. The margin for error is so small to beat that wall, and if you do beat that wall, it seems to inevitably go in, because it gives the goalkeepers no chance to react to it. It comes over at such pace, and you can see from the goalkeeper, he just drops a knee, and it doesn't even go in the top corner. It's kind of halfway up. It's just the pace and power to get over that wall that beats the keeper.
Yeah, I suppose the Videz keeper just pointed out with the second goal, I imagine. It kind of where he went straight through him.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see from the angle. It did look like it might have got a little deflection if a ball's gone at that sort of pace when the goalkeeper's set and kind of has his position set. Any sort of little flick, if you can't get your hand to react to it quick enough, it does look like it goes through you. But any sort of little flick or deviation in the path of the ball does tend to put a keeper off, and it does look like it goes through in the end. But yeah, he won't be too disappointed.
Yeah, I suppose, and then on the positive side for Pats, obviously Joey Nine come back last couple of weeks, and you can see why they brought him back. That was a good save to keep the game 2-1 at that critical moment.
Yeah, I think it was probably wasn't mentioned too much in the comms. I think it was such an underrated save. You can see the trajectory of the ball. Like he's bending into the top corner, and Joseph doesn't make a meal of it. That's probably why it doesn't get the praise it should. It was a brilliant save. He moves his feet so well and gets a hand and gets around the bar. Like, it's a really incredible save. As was Bouchos the save in the last minute as well for the Dulls that would have effectively ended the tie. I think going over there 4-1. from Bulger's header was another incredible save.
Yeah. Tom, do you want to come in as a resident goalkeeping expert on this podcast along with Barry today? So no pressure.
I think I'd bow to Barry's superior knowledge and experience in terms of goalkeeping. But yeah, look, I mean, I think Barry mentioned it there. The fact that you can make a save, such a good save, without, the acrobatics, or without, sometimes a really good save doesn't necessarily have to be, have to be a camera save. And I think that's, I mean, maybe showing my age here, but like when you go back to the likes of maybe the likes of Schmeichel and Seaman, I mean, bar that Seaman save from Pesce Sligo and the Schmeichel save, I think it was Rapid Vienna, bar those two, very little big, massive, spectacular saves stick out. And for guys who played so many games, were so consistent, that's the hallmark, that there were just the consistency of good, solid saves and the consistency of that, rather than a highlight reel of a few couple, spectacular saves. And that for me, and I will go on and speak about goalkeeping later on, but I mean, that for me is the hallmark of a good keeper. If you can do your job solidly without the camera stuff, and like Barry said, it kind of went unnoticed because it was, because it wasn't for the cameras.
Yeah, so we'll come back to goals in a few minutes. But I suppose, Barry, it'd be interesting to get your opinion. This is always the kind of the type of time of the year when your Irish teams in Europe, the inevitable question comes up is, where is Irish football in comparison to other teams? We're obviously seeing probably both of our sides more than likely going to go out now in this round. Hopefully, Pass will go through. Where do you think, in terms of where are Irish teams at now in European competitions? Do we still have a good bit to go? Are we, say, better than 10 years ago as a benchmark? What do you think, in your own personal opinion?
I think we're probably the same as we were 10 years ago. I think the competitions have probably lended itself now to us getting further into stages, because you've got the Conference League, you've got a lesser quality opposition you're coming up against. You're not just getting through a Champions League tie and suddenly you're out of Europe. You've got these kind of ladder systems there where you can fall down into Europa League and Conference League. Where you look at, like, I thought it was a massive, obviously it's a really poor result for Derry against Magpies, but like, I don't know why we think we're so much better than these clubs when we put no investment in them. Like, we're signing players now on huge wages who aren't any better than the players that were here a couple of years ago. Not from my point of view anyway. I think the wages have gone up and crowds have gone up and things like that. And maybe everything bar the quality of football has gone up. I think it's probably still where it was 10 years ago. And Europe is a great leveler. It's a great litmus test to see where you actually are. And I think we're probably still amongst those sides, just above the Luxembourgs, in around the Gibraltar side. Iceland is probably bang on our level. I mean, you see the level of input and money they're putting into their league over there. They're gonna go ahead of us eventually, because it's just not happening here. And you saw that Vikinger side, they're on the move. They're putting money in, they're getting government funding. So it was a really good result for Rovers to get through that. But you'd worry in the next couple of years if that investment isn't put in early.
Yeah, that makes up grim reading, though, just listening there, in terms of you're thinking that we're on level with Gibraltar, though, Gibraltar football.
No, I think we're above it. I do think we're above it. But listen, we can't guarantee that we're going to win those ties, because we're just not at that level yet where you can go, well, that's a certainty we're getting through that round. We're still just above that and amongst the Luxembourgs and Iceland, I think. But again, you can see in the cup things like Bohs going and beating Rovers during the week, things like that happen in cup draws, and it's fairly similar. It's a two-tie event in Europe as well, so we're not good enough yet, or anywhere near good enough to the kind of give way to just definitely beating teams from Gibraltar.
Yeah, well, I think it was Stephen Kenny was during the week speaking with this, and I suppose he kind of laid out as well in terms of the lack of full-time academies and lack of underfunding. It's interesting, I was picking your point there, the wages, obviously that kind of links to what Tim Clancy said during the week, or just last week, in terms of when the wages going up. I suppose, just like devil's advocate, I suppose if we were on this podcast 10 years ago, players be giving out about maybe not having a sustainable lifestyle, in terms of not being able to, say, have to go abroad to live, not having the wages to support their families. So it's interesting that if maybe seeing the wages too much. So where's the balance, I suppose, Barry, is quite the question I'm asking.
No, I don't think the wages are too much. I think they're where they should be. These are professional lads. They're giving their life to this. I just mean in terms of the quality you're getting for that. Like, if you're looking at some of the quoted wages, $2.5 grand, $3 grand a week, you'd be looking to entice some of the better players back in England. And that just doesn't seem to be happening. I think the lads here who are doing well are getting better wages for that now. And because the player field is so small here, you're still not attracting the players you kind of want from England. You look at Danny Mandrew, and that's kind of the next level of player that you'd want to be enticing back. But obviously the wages that were maybe been offered, if that did get to that stage in the negotiations weren't enough to entice him back. So, listen, I just think in terms of quality of player at the moment, I just don't think we're probably at that level yet that command those wages, but they do deserve it here. The players they've been through enough, and as I said, it's a full-time job, and you are bringing in those people in to see it. So clubs are getting money out of these players, entertaining them, and getting through European rounds. So it's only fair they're compensated rightly.
Yeah, I suppose Tom bring in here as well. We were chatting about transfers last week and probably mentioned Dawson Devoy and Ross Tierney, like both young lads that went over to England, to Scotland. Dara Burns we can include as well, come back in January. Probably were the hottest prospects in the league, it's fair to say, over the last 2 years, and both didn't really make the grade in England. Have come back. There's a kind of show where Irish football is in terms of the moment where we are producing players.
Look, it can, sometimes, there's a big gap. I mean, just we're looking at Dundalk there, the striker left during the week. Cammy Elliott scored 1 goal in 48 appearances, went back, and I think he scored a hat-trick, if not more, for East Kilbride. So, I mean, it shows the gap between, he did a job here, but I think 1 goal in 48 is fair enough to say that a goal threat wasn't there. He went back into the Scottish lower leagues, and he's back where he left off. You're looking at lads who, like you say, maybe they were living at home as well. They're in an environment where they're really, really shining on it. They go, and these guys are still, late teens, early 20s. They're moving house, they're moving country, they're moving into a new environment. And sometimes what we've seen over the years is that when the lads come back, when they get their second chance to go over, they come back, they light up in the league. I mean, look, we're talking about transfers and stuff like that. Aidan Keena was a perfect example. Aidan Keena, who went over when he went to Scotland the first time, went back, lit the league up with Sligo Rovers, went back to Cheltenham. Yes, I do know he's back again, but he was a different player when he had returned after his first experience. I don't know. I think it's a lot to say, that the failed is probably a massive, is a massive word. I think maybe there's a lot going on as well as, there is a jump in leagues. I mean, you're looking at where lads coming out of the Premier Division, some of them will have played European football, some of them not. Going straight up into maybe League One, League Two is a serious jump. I mean, are you maybe, and look, we see what's happening here, you better go into a smaller club, working your way up through the leagues and having a more consistent, you're going to be there for longer. Look at the likes of Sean McLaughlin, still over. He hasn't come back. He's a fixture now with Hull City. You look at it like Jamie McGrath. I know he bounced around a bit, but now he seems to be settled. Lads who went over, who played a lot of football before they went over. Both McLaughlin and Jamie McGrath were solid fixtures in the League of Ireland before they moved over. The likes of Devoy and Tierney were starting to become solid. And then they left again. Look, they left a bit younger than the two boys left. So I personally would like to see guys maybe building up their experience in the league and then possibly going to a smaller club and working their way up the leagues and seeing how that goes. Because, like I said, there's a lot of changes. You're moving out of an environment. You're moving out of a country and a league that you're used to. So it's an awful lot, especially when you're only getting used to playing senior adult football. So that would be my way of looking at it. Take your time. You've a career, hopefully maybe 15 years ahead of you. Build yourself up and go incrementally rather than going over to a big club, dropping back down again and having to completely rebuild your career.
Yeah, well, look, there's no one size fits all. I mentioned 2 examples there. Players played in the league and went over. I suppose I was more thinking like the most recent examples of players like that, and this kind of links in what Stephen Kenny was saying about the kind of maybe lack of full-time academies. Obviously, the Brexit issue that we all know well about now. Players can't go over 18. They can go further abroad. It's just interesting that just in terms of players and where we're at, I suppose. Like the issue we're always going to have, and I suppose bring Barry back in, is that just while we have England on our doorstep and the English football pyramid, and there's wages in the conference that you can get that be much more attractive, probably still playing lower level Premier Division League of Ireland. And that's always going to be an issue for players.
Yeah, well, definitely. It's such a short career. You've got to try and make the money while you can as well. Like it is your career. It's your means to an end at the end of the day. So you've got to try and make as much money as you can early on. And it's, with Tom's point as well, I agree with it. You're probably better going on to incrementally go up through the leagues. You look at Owen Doyle going over to Hibs and starting from there and moving up through leagues, Pork as well. But again, if the opportunity comes to go to one of these sides, you do think that kind of like the Europa League and Europe at the moment. If you start at a higher level, you can fall down through the ladders and still make a good career for yourself. And that's probably in terms of earnings, that's the way you should probably do it. But in terms of your career progression and having longevity in it, it's probably better to go the other way and trying to earn your stripes really. And then hopefully at the end of the day, you earn that big contract that kind of sets you up for a while. And before if you eventually do come back here to lay roots again.
Yeah, and I suppose look at Jacob Ryan. Jacob Ryan, who signed for Everton this week, went over to Belgium, made his name in France, now has fallen into the Premier League with £20 million move reported. So again, there's the kind of the other path of going abroad and trying to earn your stripes that way. Aidan, we mentioned transfers. Aidan Keena, Tom, that's the big transfer news this week, along with a couple others.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a strange one to see him back. Look, Pats are going to claim he was in the Shelbourne Academy, if I'm right, before he came through Pats. He was somebody I suppose everyone had high hopes for initially. Like it's mentioned, went over, didn't work from the first time, came back. And I mean, if he can replicate his form at Sligo back at Pats, I mean, look, Pats are in I won't say it's a false position. It's not. That's where they are. But I mean, if he can be that number 9, firing the goals, they're not going to do. Let's call it a spade a spade. They're not going to win the title this season. But if they can get a nucleus of a side together, he could be the spearhead for a decent title challenge next season. And look at Stephen Kenny over the years. When he was signing players at Dundalk, he was nearly looking to the season ahead. Very often, it was the second season when these players came good. So, I mean, if you're looking at the likes of Keena, he'll bed, that the hope would be that he bed down, possibly, get a few games in Europe as well, build the confidence back up in him, and he could be a massive signing for Pats next year. Because, look, we know how hard it is to find a goal scorer, and especially one that's not in their early 30s. You mentioned Park Hammond there. I mean, Park Hammond still banging in the goals for Waterford. You look at Pat Hooban as well. They're both lads in their mid-30s. You have to go back to maybe Seanie Maguire, who you had somebody in their early 20s who was prolific. Maybe I'm forgetting somebody, but to come into mind, Seanie Maguire's the last person, mid-20s, prolific. So for me, it's a massive coup for Pats to get him back like in the league and hopefully get him back firing again. And like you said, Pats, maybe 2025 could be a year where a title charge could be back on.
Don't be setting. You're setting up a false dawn again. I had the hopes set for this year, for God's sake. No, but look, on a serious note, look, I think it's a brilliant sign. I don't know what it is with Pats and number 9s. There just seem to be jinx when they arrive at Pats. I don't know what it is. So thankfully he's at number 18 jersey for the time being. Hopefully it won't jinx him. But no, look, I think it's a great sign. I think last time, to be honest, I've really seen him play was when he was with Sligo. He got 18, 19 goals that season. He was excellent. I know Sligo fans devastated. Not Donal, obviously, who was on the podcast last, was hoping to come back to the bitter red, but he hasn't, thankfully. But yeah, look, he's a definitely an issue the Pats have. I think the Rory Keaton sign, for whatever reason, we don't know, and we might come back down a sec, just didn't work. Like there's definitely a player in there. Just whenever he played, it just never looked right. I don't know what it was. Maybe Daly leaving early. Maybe he wasn't a Kenny player. I'm not sure. But look, it's like you look at that Pats tack the last day, and I might bring Barry back in. Like obviously, young Mealy is still there, but he's still learning his trade. But if you were to say to any manager in this division that your front four is going to be El Bizzetti, Aidan Keena, Jake Mulroney, and if you've seen Romal Palmer play the last day, that's your front four. I think most managers in this division take that.
Yeah, that's formidable. Like Tom's talking about title challenges. Like if you've got to put that 4 into any team, you've got to consider yourself as title challengers. That's like you just saw Palmer the other night, how good he was and what they missed kind of in the cup game the weekend as well. He was just incredible. And Forrester was firing balls into him. He's just one touch, lays it off, and gets himself into the mixer again. But that, yeah, if you look at Stephen Kenny's teams, they've been quick down the wings. He's got his wingers now, and hopefully in Mulroney and Albazetti as well, like down that side. But yeah, you just look at that number 9. They haven't had it since Christy Fagan, really. Like that's somebody who's just going to. Balls are just going to hit him. He's just going to be in the right position. He's going to strain no further than the 18-yard box, really, and he's kind of like that kind of Gary Twig figure that's in there, and just he knows how to score goals. And to be fair to Aidan, he knows how to do that. He's done that, probably not last year, a couple of injuries, but he's done that in this league certainly. And when you look at the spine of their team now, with Joseph Anang in goal, Redmond, you've got Jamie Lennon in a sitting position as well. He's just got quality all over now, and I'm sure even as he would have hoped, it's been backed by Gareth Gallagher in this window, and I'm sure it'll be even more now in the next one.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned on another podcast recently. Well, you look at what Gareth Keller's putting into the squad now in this summer window. Like, what's he going to spend in the winter? That's the question. Like, I'd be thinking, like, you look at that squad there, like you mentioned there, some cracking players, and again, I think like, if I was in the past dressing room now, you nearly want to be playing for your future. That's what's happening at the moment. I think there's gonna be a huge upheaval over the summer, or sorry, the winter, to the players going in and out. Keaton, then Tom obviously did a big sign and gone back to Cork City.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's a huge signing for them. I mean, they're already, I'm not going to tempt fate, but let's call a spade a spade. They're going to walk that division. That Keaton's not a signing for the first division. Keaton's a signing where they're trying to make a statement of intent for next season, for when they're up. I mean, he caught on fire when he was with them the last time. I was watching the interview with them yesterday, and the interviewer was talking about the Turner's Cross crowd, and he just seemed so positive about being back and looking forward to being in an environment where he felt, where he felt at home, so to speak. That's where he's played his best football since he came back to Ireland. So, I mean, look, I'm looking forward to seeing him back. And I don't know if he was unhappy at Pats. I don't know, like you say, something, whatever way, but he's played his happiest football at Cork City. And for me, it's a statement of intent for them for next season to say, look, hang on a second, we've seen that when the likes of Waterford and Galway this season, they recruited well, and they're not going to be in any sort of relegation trouble this season at all. So, because of clever recruitment. So for me, that's the first step in the clever recruitment, where you're building for next year. So listen, get a few games into him at the back end of this season, build the confidence back up, get pre-season into him, and hopefully he'll be the kind of signing who will maybe keep them out of relegation trouble next season. But no, a big signing for them. Again, go back to goal scorers, like they're not easily found, as we, as someone who sat at Oriel Park this season and watched not too many goals go in, like a good goal scorer is a precious commodity in this league.
Barry, you ever played in the dressing room where there's a player like Keaton come in, expectation, like, we've seen him play last year with Cork, you know he's a quality footballer, he is a goal scorer, and just for some reason it doesn't work and there's no real reason to. You ever been in a situation like that? Maybe without naming players, but have you ever seen a situation like that in the dressing room?
Yeah, I have. I played with Eamon Zaya at Shamrock Rovers, and he was banging in goals for Derry. Couldn't but score in games, and then he came to Shamrock Rovers, and it just didn't happen for him. I think the management would have put on drills specifically for him, to try and get him back into that goal scoring form. But sometimes it just doesn't happen for you at a club. He can hit everything but the goal. And listen, when you look at the Keaton situation, though, the off the field stuff is just so horrific for him as well. That a big move like that as well, with all that expectation put on his shoulders. And the thing in this league now, that, as Tom said, the goal scorers is such a commodity in this league that you have one good season and a team will snap you up because they need those goal scorers so bad. Where you probably want to look at maybe abroad, they look at giving you 2 or 3 seasons to have a look at, are you going to do consistently. And unfortunately, it just didn't happen for Pats. I think listening to his press conference yesterday for Cork, he did mention the off the field stuff and how he didn't quite settle and wasn't quite happy, and that's such a massive thing with players as well, that like you lose 50% of your performance if your head isn't right and your things off the field aren't right for you as well. And that seems to be the case with Keating this season, and God, I think anyone in that situation would be the same. But you look at him now, and he'll be back in his kind of happy place now with Cork, and he does have that goal scoring instinct, and for them you'd hope he hit the ground running again this season and push it into the Premier Division next season.
How many more transfers to wrap up?
Well, like we mentioned, the Drogheda brought in their 6th signing of the window, a guy called same as Douglas James Taylor. He has 3 first names with 3 first names. He has Harper Bailey's his name, and he came in from West Brom. He's been given their number 5 role. He's not a player I know a huge amount about. But of their 6 signings, half of them have been defenders. So, I mean, that's obviously an area where Kevin Doherty's looked at and went, look, we need to back up here. So, I mean, between Drogheda making 6 signings in the window, Dundalk have made 8. Again, 3 defenders they brought in as well. Both teams brought in a goalie. Andrew Wogan then obviously went out. Dundalk lost George Shelby. So it's going to be interesting to see how they gel. Like, look, we spoke earlier on about both Keena and Keaton being as signings for the future. Get kind of they're using the end of the season as a run-in for Drogheda and Dundalk. There is no time to be bedding in, and I see one of signing that possibly might have went under the radar is A. Dervin joining Dundalk for the, we've all watched A. Dervin over the years. There's a bite in his play, and I think that's something, I mean, Dundalk fans have been talking about it since Chris Shields left. That little bit of a player who isn't afraid to put in a tackle in midfield, a player who's just wants to get their foot on the ball, and if they get the foot on something else at the same time, it's no bad thing. And when we've seen how he's brought in, he was outstanding in the first division with Longford Town. Shells, again, talking about players who I won't say didn't fit in, but at Shells, he was probably himself and Mark Coyle were both very similar players. Coyle has gone on and kicked his game to another level. A. Dervin then moved over to Galway, and again, he was recast as a right winger with Galway. He scored as a right winger against Dundalk at Oriel Park. He's coming in now. He's certainly not going to play right wing for Dundalk, but again, that's going to bring a level of solidity or something, to the midfield. It's something. It's a signing that Dundalk fans will see paying dividends in a couple of weeks' time. In terms of First Division, Jamal Ibrahim went back to Longford from Athlone. A guy called Bruce Strachan landed at Harps, a young Scottish player. Conor Walsh, and again, goalkeeping has become a theme. Conor Walsh is a highly rated underage international. He's gone on loan to Wexford. Owen Mason's loan finished up, and Conor Walsh has went in there. Freddie Turley was at Bray, went to Derby's academy from Shamrock Rovers academy, so he's very highly rated again. I know he's an underage international. Leo Gaxa, who was pulling up trees with Kerry last year, and again talking about goal scoring, Athlone Town have brought him in from Galway. He ripped up the First Division last season. If he does as well at the end, they're obviously in the playoff pushes, but he could be something that could bring them close if they get to the playoff final. And then Kerry have brought in Cian Barrett on loan, who was at Kerry before. A lot of changes down at Kerry as well. Few in a treaty over this window, but they're the major ones. And like I said, a lot of movement with Dundalk and Drogheda down at the bottom of the table, and we'll see how they bet in.
Yeah, we should have mentioned earlier on, actually, it was a great win for Drogheda, by the way, 2-0 win over Waterford last Friday as well. That was an excellent performance for Drogheda, a much needed win. Barry, before we let you go, I suppose, with the two guys, with yourself and Tom on the podcast, state of goalkeeping League of Ireland at the moment, so it's good to get kind of an idea what we think so far. We're probably 2/3 of the season. What have you made the standards so far of goalkeeping in the league this year?
I think it's been really poor. Being honest with you, just for example, like watching the Drogheda and Dundalk derby game, and you could have put the 3 goals down to goalkeeping there. Is really, and that's kind of continued out to most of the league. I think Leon Pauls has probably had a better months this season than he's had. He's kind of settled into the position a little bit as well. Brian Meyer as well has done well, but yeah, Joseph Manning had a bit of a rocky start, but it seemed to come good, and I think he will be really good for St. Pat's. But I think you look at across the board, it's just way down on previous years, and yeah, like the Drogheda, and I think Goddard was just so poor for the initial goal last week, and it seems to be a theme of lonely goalkeepers coming over here and not doing well in the league. You can see that from Dundalk as well, and it's Thomas mentioned the amount of signings they've made, but you can see why both these teams are bottom of the league. The bottom of the league, and kind of conceding a lot of goals. Dennison as well for the goal for Dundalk against him comes out to the edge of the box for a cross. He just shouldn't come. He's got to come and get it, or he's got to stay in his line and gets caught in no man's land. He just heads it over him, and they get themselves back into the game. It's been really poor, I think, this season, and it's something that you talk about goal scoring, how much of a sought after position it is, but I think really now goalkeeping has come to the forefront of making big signings, and I think that was one of Stephen Kenny's big signings was Joseph Anang back, and a real statement of intent of right, we need to build from the back, and I think most teams see that now as a point of going forward and having to have a good goalkeeper there.
Why do you think then, I suppose, if you can think of an answer in maybe a minute, but like, why is there such a dearth though of Irish goalkeepers coming through? Is it a case of just lack of training? Is it going back to what Stephen Kenny was talking about, the academy structure is not enough, and coaches and so on? So what's the issue, you think?
Well, they're starting younger. basically they're starting for teams younger in the league. The average age has come way down. It used to be up about 26, 27. It's 21, 22 now. Is the average age of goalkeeper in the league. It's probably gone up a bit now in the transfer window, but that was the average age. And you just, yeah, you make mistakes at that age. That's where your learnings come from. You in academies football, and you get dipped in and out of first team football. You look across the water to. Not to use England as an example, but the goalkeepers are much older over there and they're more settled in their position. They know the position better. The kind of pressure is a little bit off. They know how to deal with it when they do make mistakes. And it's been compounded week in, week out now. You're seeing goalkeepers come under pressure and being taken out. And I don't think I've ever seen as many sub goalkeepers. They played 30% of games last season in the Premier Division. That's never happened before, where a second goalkeeper played a consistent amount of games. And that just hasn't happened in previous years. So you are losing. It's such a sought after position as well for goalkeeping coaches. They're so hard to come by, people who have the actual licenses to go and be on the bench and work in the academies as well, that kind of only now it's coming to the forefront where you realise how much of a position it is and they have to have that down through the academies.
Yeah, can I just jump in on that, Barry, as well? Just talking about the value of experience. I mean, you're looking at the likes of Brendan Clark. He's going to play his 375th Premier Division game Friday at Oriel Park. You're looking at the likes of Maher, you referenced. He's not even 24 till November. He'll have 100 Premier Division games by that stage. Conor Cairns will have 95 Premier Division by the end of the season. You'll have Ed McGinty. I mean, you talked about the value there. Once Sligo brought McGinty in, he's going to hit 125 Premier Division appearances by the end of the season. You look at those guys; those are the top keepers in the division, and you're hitting in around 100. 100 Premier Division games. So, like you say, look, it's all, for me anyway, a huge amount of it is about experience and getting that experience in early. And look, sometimes you do have to make, if you're making your mistakes in academy games or whatever, they're not been noticed, but maybe now in the Premier Division, they are being noticed that little bit more. So I think it's probably a wee bit harsh to say, I think give keepers time, give keepers experience, and they'll come good.
Yeah, when you just look at across the board, probably as Tom was saying, with the caliber of goalkeeper that there is, and you have experience. Brendan Clark's been around the block. Conor Cairns, you would have said maybe was a strange signing for Shells. He wasn't having the best of times at Galway. But they've gone away, had experience, probably made mistakes elsewhere, and shown the fruits of that now when they've come to other clubs. And look at the consistency of Brendan Clark at Galway. He's been excellent. Conor Cairns as well. And you just look at Ed McGinty this season. He's gone away, had that experience, being a young goalkeeper, probably in a struggling Sligo side, come back, and now he's probably one of their main players. And you just look at maybe Drogheda and Dundalk and lads who've been thrown in, young lads from abroad coming in as loanee signings, and you're facing 5 and 6 shots a game. And it just kind of, as you go up through the league, those areas have to become smaller against the shot ratio. You see when you go into Europe, you're probably going to have maybe 2 or 3 saves to make in a game, and you've got to make them, to keep your side in the tie. And that's kind of where the pressure is on Liam, on Brian, and in the European games, and Conor as well. You can see from the other days. So that experience is vital.
Tom, last word to you on the goalkeepers.
Yeah, look, as Barry has said there, it's in Europe where you'll really be seen. That's where you need your top keepers. They're not going to get it facing as many shots, but those that do, they need to deal with them right. And you referenced the Vaduz keeper there earlier on. Look, whatever, if there was a deflection on the second goal, but that save at the end there to keep that tie alive. Go back to Bate in 2016, Dundalk were beaten 1-0, but the fact that they were in the first leg, the fact that they were beaten only 1-0 was down to Gary Rogers. Gary Rogers performed out of his skin that game. Then that kept the tie alive to back to Tala, and we know what happened there. Going back to Barry's point, speaking about the importance of getting a keeper in to build a solid foundations, one of the first things Stephen Kenny did, he got Gary Rogers in. We watched it for years and years at Oriel. It's 0-0. The opposition attack. Gary makes a save. Dundalk go up and they win the game 3 or 4-0. People forget about that save. People forget about the cornerstone of the keeper. The last minute, you're 1-0 up. There's a massive crowd in the box. Corner gets floated in. Your keeper comes out. Whether he punches it or catches it, he takes the pressure off. Game's blown up and everybody goes to goal scorer. Oh, this is the man of the match. Don't look at the keeper taking that point off. So it's the keeper doing it. Going back to the things, go back to mention that for the camera, the importance of a keeper and not necessarily doing the flashy things, doing their job right, doing the experienced things right. For me, it's that value of experience is so critical in goalkeeping. And look, when you look at the top end of the table versus the bottom end of the table, bar Churalska at Bowes, he's about the only one who is going against that. He's not very experienced, but he's come in, and his last game in the Cypriot second division was on the 2nd of February. Not even 2 weeks later, he was making his debut for Bowes. So he's literally he's going to be playing right through. So he's in form all the time. Beyond that, most players, like you say, it's down to the experience. Waterford brought in a keeper there who played 20 times in League Two. Sam Sargent's gotten injured. Louis Jones has come in. Yes, he lost 1-0 on his debut, or 2-0 on his debut, but he's coming on the back of an experience in League Two. So look, experience, and hopefully in 5 or 6 years' time, when we're still having this conversation, we'll have a lot more experience in the league, and we'll be looking at going, hang on a second, our goalkeepers are so good, are the cornerstone of maybe European qualification, European progression, and maybe that's the fruits of what's coming now, like, hopefully.
Yeah, you probably just said it there. You just said it there, really, Tom. If goalkeepers can be, it's a similar position to referees. The best of them aren't noticed in the games because they're doing their job under the radar, doing it so well, and they're not making those mistakes week in, week out. And you look back to the analysis of performances in Europe as well. They just went under the radar and they got results because of it. But yeah, for goalkeepers now, it's about really staying off the radar instead of being on it.
What's interesting you mentioned about Treska actually was the keeper from Bowes. The person assigned him was a goalkeeper himself. Actually flew over to Cyprus to watch him play, which is kind of interesting. He's probably has been has he been the goalkeeper season, Barry, you think, in terms of just like his overall performances in the league?
He's probably been the most underrated goalkeeper of the season, definitely. It's like God knows where Bowes would be without him, but I just think Ed McGinty is a step above everyone at the moment. Just his all-round play, and the run Sligo have gone on, it was on the back of maybe a hard kind of month where McGinty probably got them points in games where they shouldn't have got it, and on the back of that they've gone this unbelievable run.
All right, before I let you go, I suppose the 2 games coming up, Shells, do you give them much of a hope getting through, or is this maybe the case of winning for the coefficient?
Yeah, listen, you never know, but I just think it's a massive task. It's not as if they were 3-0 and unlucky in the game. They were outplayed and outclassed and up against a quality opposition. But again, there'll be great learnings for Damon and Joey O'Brien going into next season. And if you could get something out of the game and kind of use that to propel you on to winning that league and getting into those Champions League qualifiers next season, I think that's probably more what they're looking at in terms of Thursday. And yeah, the other results are still up for grabs, I think. And if Rovers get one back in over in Sparta, you never know. And obviously it's Pats are in a great position going up to Vidoz, who lost again at the weekend with pretty much the same starting 11. So there's be a bit of fatigue going into that game. Pat did the weekend off, so it should be interesting.
Lads, we'll let you go. Thanks very much.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
And before we go, just a reminder that you can now write into the show. You can leave a comment, you can drop a voice note. You never know, could be played on the air. And the number to get in contact with the show is 089 429 5932. And to answer the question from last week, who was the last League of Ireland player to score a hat-trick in Europe? And that was Sean Maguire. Oisin Langan will be back with the Voice Notes podcast in your feed roughly on Friday morning for the European games. I want to thank our guests today, Tom O'Connor. I want to thank Barry Murphy. I want to thank all our contributors for dropping a voice note. I want to thank you for listening, and we'll chat to you all next week.